Yeah, the last question from the brother, he says, I came to know that one should not supplicate after every fard, which is obligatory salah. He wants to know, is this actually true? Are we allowed to offer this supplication after the obligatory prayer on a regular basis?
The question contains two things. I would like to make distinction between them.
Mm-hmm.
No, it is prescribed to make dua, which is supplication, after every salah, any salah, whether it's a fard or nafl. We stated before that the Prophet ﷺ got hold of Mu'adh ibn Jabal, and he said to him, Ya Mu'adh, inni uhibbuk. Oh Mu'adh, I love you. And for that, I would like to give you a very great advice. فَلَا تَدَعَنَّ دُبُرَ كُلِّ صَلَاةٍ. Do not ever leave by the end of every salah. And that was explained by the scholars, whether right after reciting at-tashahhud and before making taslim, or even after you wrap up the entire salah with at-taslim. And taqul, to say, Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. Such a beautiful supplication. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam advised Mu'adh with it because he loved him. And this advice is also generally for the entire ummah. Isn't this a dua? What do we say? We say, Allahumma a'inni, oh Allah, help me out. To do what? Ala dhikrika, to remember you much. Wa shukrika, and to show gratitude to you and to be grateful. Wa husna ibadatik, and to worship you as best as I can. Alright? So this is an invocation. The problem and the dispute, and which I wanted to make distinction between the two cases, is making dua and specifying this time with dua and raising the hands. The first part is prescribed. By the way, you may make dua at any time and in any place. It doesn't have to be in the salah, it doesn't have to be after the salah. But we indicated before in an independent session about dua that there are best times where the dua most likely to be accepted. But at any time, while I'm reclining, while I'm on my bed, and if I wake up all of a sudden, you can make dua at any time. There is no restriction whatsoever. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ad-du'a'u huwa al-ibadah." Ad-du'a is the worship itself. But al-kayfiyya, which means how do you do dua? This is the second part, which we want to make distinction between it and the first part. Some people would raise their hands whenever and at any time. No. Amongst the adab, the etiquette of making the dua is to raise both hands and face the qibla. And it's best if you have purity and tahar. But after the salah, it was never reported that the Prophet ﷺ or any of his companions did so. So that means you want to make dua, make dua. But specifying after the salah of raising the hands after the fard, why do we say this is not prescribed? Because it has become so common to the point that some people believe this is an inseparable part from the requirements of fulfilling the faridah, which is not true. If any person made khitamu salah and left, his salah is valid. And even if somebody was in a hurry and just finished the salah and left without making tasbih 33 times, tahmid, takbir, his salah is still valid. These acts are complementary to the fard. These are nawafil. But if the person did not do it, it does not affect the validity of the fard. So what we want to conclude from that, making dua at any time is prescribed. And there are specific times which are best to make dua. Making dua after the salah is okay, no problem, is permissible. But how do you make dua? Do you have to do it in a specific way where you raise your hands? No. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not do that after every fard.
Jazakallah khair.